Many of you out there are probably young learner teachers, or maybe you run a school for young learners. Maybe you're training teachers of young learners. And as we know, when we're working with young learners, our number one goal is to prepare them for their future, right? It doesn't matter whether you're teaching them English, which most of us are here on this webinar, or teaching them math or social studies or science. The whole point, our goal for our kids is that we're trying to prepare them for their future. And we want our children to have the knowledge and skills that they need to be successful on an individual level, but also to be effective people as they grow up in this exciting century of rapid change and globalization. And we know that globalization affects almost every aspect of our daily lives, right? Even if we don't realize it, across sports and culture, the environment, business, technology, so much of our lives are integrated all across the globe, and we're connected to each other, maybe whether we like it or not. So what I want to do is to just start with a basic question, which is, what is a global citizen? Let's just start out with this simple question here, because that's what we're here to talk about. And I've got a poll, so take a look at the screen. I'm going to try and bring it up here. And I want you to answer this question. Okay, so it's a multiple choice question, and it's simply, what is a global citizen? Okay. Is it someone who holds a passport and travels the world? Is it someone who is a member of the world community? Is it someone who contributes to the world community? Is it anyone who lives in this 21st century globalized world? What are we talking about here? I see that, wow, very close, about 15%. Oh, now 19%. Anyone who lives in the 21st century globalized world. But neck and neck, somebody who contributes to the world community. Now that's ahead. I see, it seems like the group is sort of debating, is it just anyone? Or is it someone who's actually active and contributing to the globalized world? Okay, I'm just going to give another minute. I see that almost 50% of you out there have clicked an answer. So I'm going to give just a couple of seconds. And I see in the chat box, people are saying, oh, Maria Jesus says, aren't all of them correct? Vera, hi Vera from Serbia, good friend of mine. Contributing is very important. All right, so I'm going to end voting. Get your votes in. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay. So let's share the results here. And can you see the results? We have here that 39% of you said someone contributes to the world community. Now, in some sense, maybe whether or not we realize it or not, we are a member of the global community. But let me go back to my presentation. Where is it here? If we want to define it, especially in thinking about what citizenship is, right? A global citizen, first off, is someone who identifies with being part of an emerging world community. So there is this aspect of that I identify, I realize that I'm a member of this community. So in a sense, you know, it's not necessarily everybody today. If you don't realize you're part of it, then there is something missing. And there's the second part. And actions contribute to building this community's values and practices. And I don't think that anyone was necessarily wrong in saying that it's anyone. The reason why we want to try to incorporate global citizenship as something that we teach our young is simply the fact that we want them to recognize it. We want them to identify with the fact that they belong to a world community and that our actions affect this community. So that's really why we are where we are now, right? Now, Ron Israel, who defined this, you can see on your handout, I left a blank, and it's Ron Israel. He's actually co-founder and a board member of the Global Citizens Initiative, where they are an organization that seeks to strengthen the practice of global citizenship. Okay. Now, the reason why this is also important, of course, is that we live in an interconnected world. So, if you don't realize it, you're not realizing that your actions might actually affect somebody else, right? Then you're not being a really effective member. Okay? On a personal level, of course, we know that we're connected with people all over the world, right? Through greater travel, but also through technology and social media. For example, it's amazing. I had 2 meetings through Skype. The first one was with colleagues in Japan and China. Then I had another one with colleagues in Washington, D.C. and Boston. And then I was sending out messages by email and through Facebook about this webinar. And now look at us, all of us coming together online through this webinar. It's amazing how we can connect with each other through technology and social media. Even think about what you're wearing. Take a moment and look down at what you're wearing. Okay, maybe you're wearing pajamas. That's fine. Okay. Now, do you ever think about the clothes that you wear? That the things that you're wearing are actually representative of sort of this global community that we're living in all over the world, right? Maybe the actual materials came from one place, and maybe they were cut and sewn in another place, and that maybe the transport for that to go from one country, your country, to the store was being run by another country. The food we eat, the goods we buy, the clothes we wear, it comes from all over the world. Planes, boats, and trucks, and made from components built in factories everywhere, from Asia to the Americas to the Middle East to Europe. So in order to communicate with people, and also that they recognize they are part of this global community, that we actually rely on each other in so many ways, right? Because of this interconnectedness and expanding the globe, we can't just survive on our own anymore. Okay, I'm going to lower my volume just a bit. So, we can't live in this bubble where we only buy own countries, right? We have to collaborate and based on mutual interests. Being connected way means we rely on each other's wings. Take a look at this image here. This image actually comes from Turkey. I don't know how many of you are from Turkey. So, we also rely on each other in the economy, for political stability, for human and natural resources, for sustainability and protection and innovation, and for peace, for communication, for health, energy, and aid. And if there's some disaster in one part of the world, then so many people globally come to help people in those disasters. And so this means that if we're trying to prepare our young learners for the world that they live in, they need more skills to prosper in this globalized world. So, what skills are these? Let's see. I'm going to see what you guys say. So this is a question for the chat box. You can type in some of your ideas. What are some of the skills our children need? Let me see what you're saying in the chat box. What are some skills that we need? Empathy. Yes. Empathy for others, for other different ways of life. Critical thinking. Critical thinking. Absolutely. Yeah, accepting differences. Teamwork, socialization, critical thinking. Excellent. Leadership. So many people are typing in critical thinking. Very, very important. Social skills, negotiation, tolerance. Okay, excellent. ITC, having an open mind, communication. Well, speaking of communication, actually, the first skill, the number one skill, of course, that we are interested in, that is very full in order for you to understand someone and for someone to understand you, to have proficiency in a global language. And of course, the one we're focusing on today is English. Okay. I see somebody's typed in, Anise has typed in learning others' culture without losing their own. Yes, very important. And so if we're going to be gaining proficiency in English, of course, recognizing global language, we definitely don't want to lose our own culture. Obviously, English is a global language, right? It's being used by so many people around the world, so it's no longer anyone. Because the level of tourism, business, diplomacy, it's the language that we're trying to use often for global problem solving, for discussing important issues in world politics and economics and the environment. Very important. So I have a quote actually from one of my students from Brazil. Her name is Karina. I don't know if she's joined us today, but this is quoted in my textbook, Teaching Young Learners English. And as she said, as English teachers, we can offer children a passport into this globalized world using a language that presently can open doors to cultures, not only to English-speaking countries, but a whole society that speaks English around the globe. And I couldn't agree with her more.